For most of human history, medicine had a pretty simple job. Just don't die. We were fighting off plagues, infections, crazy injuries. But today, we're facing a totally different ballgame. So we're going to dive into this huge revolutionary shift in how we think about aging. We're moving away from just tacking on more years to your life to something way more important, adding more life to your years. I mean, really think about it. Since the early 1900s, we've basically doubled the average human lifespan. That is an incredible achievement of what we call Medicine 2.0. But here's the catch. This success has created a brand new problem. Sure, we're living longer, but a lot of that extra time is spent struggling with chronic diseases, with a much lower quality of life. So it makes you ask the question, right? What is the point of a longer life if it's not a healthier, more awesome life?
And this gets us to the two most important ideas we have to get our heads around: lifespan and health span. Lifespan, that's easy. It's just the raw number, how many years you're on the planet. But health span, oh, that's the real prize. That's the part of your life where you're vibrant, you're capable, you're free from disease. And the big problem is, for so many people, as their lifespan gets longer and longer, their health span just doesn't keep up. There's this huge growing gap, a final decade, sometimes more, just spent in decline.
So to figure out why that gap even exists, we've got to take a hard look at the system we're all using right now. It's an approach that was, absolutely game-changing 100 years ago, but it is just not built for the challenges we're facing today. This quote just nails it, doesn't it? Medicine 2.0 is fundamentally reactive. It is a superhero if you have a burst appendix or some crazy infection. But when it comes to the slow-burn diseases that really define aging, it basically waits for the ship to hit the iceberg. It only kicks into gear and starts treating things like heart disease or Alzheimer's after the symptoms are already screaming at you, which is often decades too late.
So what are these icebergs? Well, longevity expert Dr. Peter Attia calls them the 4 horsemen of chronic disease. You've got your atherosclerotic diseases, think heart attacks and strokes. You've got cancer. You've got neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's. And you've got metabolic diseases like type 2 diabetes. Now, here's the single most important thing to get. These are not sudden events. A heart attack is just a final dramatic scene of a movie that actually started when you were a teenager. And our old playbook, it waits until the credits are rolling before it even tries to do anything.
Okay, but what if these 4 horsemen weren't actually 4 separate enemies? What if they were all connected? What if they were all just growing out of the exact same toxic ground? Well, this is where the whole story takes a really fascinating turn. That toxic ground, that common soil, has a name: metabolic dysfunction. It usually starts with something called insulin resistance. That's just a fancy way of saying your body's cells start ignoring the hormone insulin. And when that happens, it kicks off this whole cascade of problems: inflammation, high blood sugar, all kinds of hormonal chaos. And that creates the perfect, fertile ground for every single one of those 4 horsemen to pop up and thrive.
And please do not make the mistake of thinking this is just about being overweight. It's not. Of the roughly 100 million Americans walking around with metabolic dysfunction, a full 1/3 of them are not obese. You can look totally fine on the outside while this incredibly dangerous process is quietly chugging along on the inside. It's truly a hidden epidemic.
All right, so if the old playbook is failing us, it's pretty obvious we need a new one. We need a strategy that doesn't just wait for the iceberg, but one that helps us steer the ship clear decades ahead of time. And this new strategy, it's called Medicine 3.0.
So let's just look at how we got here. Medicine 1.0 was, it was mostly just guesswork and observation. Then Medicine 2.0 was this massive leap forward, using the scientific method to treat diseases after they showed up. But Medicine 3.0, this is the paradigm shift we desperately need right now. It is all about being proactive, about preventing those diseases from ever taking hold in the first place, using data and a super personalized approach to keep you healthy.
The difference is just night and day. Instead of reacting to symptoms, we're proactively going after the root cause, that metabolic dysfunction we were just talking about. And instead of some one-size-fits-all advice, we use technology, wearables, advanced testing, all of it, to build a strategy that is completely unique to you. It's about shifting the power so you can take control.
So what's the end game here? What are we trying to achieve? It's this incredible concept called compression of morbidity. Now, instead of that long, slow decline, the goal is to live a long, awesome, healthy life and then have a really, really short period of sickness at the very end. You're literally squeezing or compressing the sick years into the shortest possible time. You live well for as long as you possibly can.
Okay,
So this all sounds great, but how do we actually do it? This is where it gets really practical and honestly kind of fun. We need to stop thinking about exercise and start thinking about training. And we're not just training randomly, we're training for a very, very specific event.
This is the key. You need to define your centenarian decathlon. And I'm serious. Take a minute and actually think about this. What are the 10 physical things you absolutely positively want to be able to do when you're in your 90s? Is it picking up a great-grandchild from the floor? Is it hiking your favorite trail? Maybe it's just being able to put your own darn suitcase in the overhead bin on a plane. This has nothing to do with vanity. This is about being able to live the life you actually want to live.
This whole process is called backcasting. You start with the goal, what you want to do in your final decade, and you work backward from there to figure out what you need to be doing today. So if you want to lift a 30-pound kid when you're 90, you better be training for strength and power right now with things like deadlifts and squats. If you want to be hiking, you need to be building that aerobic base now. Your decathlon literally defines your training plan for the rest of your life.
I mean, this quote just says it all, right? Think of muscle mass as your physical 401k. It's your retirement account for health. You make deposits now, you build it up so that you can make withdrawals later when you really need it. Your strength, your stability, your cardio fitness, these are the pillars that are going to hold up that amazing final decade that you're designing for yourself.
And if you're sitting there wondering if all this effort is really worth it, just look at this data. This is absolutely mind-blowing. VO2 max is a measure of your aerobic fitness. Just by moving from the bottom quarter of the population to the below-average group, you slash your risk of dying from any cause by 50%. Get yourself up to above average, and it's a 70% risk reduction. There's no debate. Exercise is the single most powerful longevity drug we have on the entire planet.
So what does this all boil down to? Where does this leave us? Well, it's about a fundamental shift in your perspective. You are no longer just a passive passenger along for the ride in your own health journey. You are the architect. You are the designer. You have to become the CEO.
So here it is, your 4-step strategy to get started. Step 1, assess where you are and do it early and often. Don't you dare wait for symptoms. Get the data. Step 2, target the root cause. Pour your energy into improving your metabolic health through nutrition, sleep, and managing stress. Step 3, train with purpose. Design that centenarian decathlon and start making deposits into your physical retirement account. And finally, step 4, and this is crucial, prioritize your emotional well-being. None of this physical stuff matters if you're not in a good place mentally.
And that brings us right back to where we started this whole conversation. This entire strategy, this whole new way of thinking, it's really all about one thing: maximizing your health span. It's about making absolutely sure that your last decade is just as full of life and joy and adventure as all the ones that came before it. So, I'm just going to leave you with this one question. Not final decade of your life. It's not some far-off abstract idea. It's a destination. And you are actively moving towards it every single day. The choices you make today are quite literally building what that decade is going to look and feel like. So the only question left is, what are you training for?